welcome to my colleagues and the viewers of this workshop. It's aimed at people interested in the science of healing and specifically the opportunities that new technology give us to monitor the progress of said healing. Now, healing is probably one of the oldest and most widely practiced professions to date, in that many traditions go back into the mists of time with their origins. One of the concepts that we raise in this workshop is face reading. And if you just Google those two words, you will open a Alice in Wonderland's rabbit hole of opportunities and journeys into what is effectively a 5,000 or 6,000 year old science, well understood in almost every culture. Just please mute microphones if you wouldn't mind, just in case somebody's phone rings or such like. I would appreciate that. But at the same time, if you have a question during this presentation, and then, I mean, my idea is to just quickly run through a few images to tune people into what we're doing, and then hopefully try and do an actual live demo. And to that extent, it's a little bit compromised because our colleague John is not here. But as you can see, you know, the Biofield viewer is a very kind of accessible technology. And this is just a $300 laptop notebook computer I think I bought in crikey, one of those, you know, big stores in America. And you know, it allows us to, you know, access this aspect of imaging in a very sort of versatile way. In this case, on a sort of tablet laptop. Of course, you can't see what the heck I'm showing you there. But in other cases, as we're going to be exploring today, doing the same thing at a distance. It's really exciting. Brian Daly and I got on this call a little early, and we were immediately discussing the kind of things that we've been up to. And we were talking about the fact that you can actually import any image into the Biofield viewer system. And of course, this opens a whole new set of opportunities for research. And I was telling Brian that you know, I've often enjoyed kind of importing videos that are in the public domain, say the Dalai Lama or various different individuals, and actually just seeing their biofields, because of course they're present. The information is present in all images, both taken presently but also in the past. And I've often mused about the type of healing that will be available in the future. If, for example, I had a diagnosis for kidney dysfunction, renal failure or something, and then I could go back into my library and find a video of myself playing in the on the lawn, and perhaps somehow cut and paste the energy of my healthy kidneys when I'm a child and superimpose that exact frequency isotonically, so that we're effectively giving ourselves our very own unique treatment, and from our own very unique set of frequencies, kind of a tuning fork from the past, if you like. But you know, these are just musings, and the reality is that we have come a long way in supporting the healing community with the ability to scientifically and this is the important thing, to scientifically monitor the progress of their chosen protocol. And what I mean by that is each and every healer not only has a specific training and skill set, but they will then also curate a very bespoke treatment plan for each individual based on their interactions. And obviously this can be adapted, but Biofield Viewer allows us all to have a standoff, non-invasive assessment of that process. And in my humble experience, a lot of people have benefited from seeing what's going on when they're doing their healing, and they often improve their technique, their speed of delivery, by being able to see what's going on and perhaps what's holding some people back. Anyhow, I'm going to share my screen. I'm certainly not going to do what I did last time and just talk for too long. I'm just going to quickly run through a few images to get people clear about what it is that we're doing. And then hopefully we'll be able to start. And to that extent, Nelly, I mean, maybe, and Brian, maybe I can take a picture of both of you, because this is the beautiful thing, is that if we're even on a Zoom call or a Skype call, we can do a biofield image. In fact, I would imagine this is probably going to be the preferred way of doing it, because not only can you take the image live and guide someone as to best practice vis-a-vis lighting and position, but you can then also immediately go into an assessment. So that's what I'm thinking. Excuse me. So I'm going to share my screen at my peril. Hopefully I haven't got too many things open that are going to confuse and distract, but here we go. I'm assuming everyone can see my slides. I appreciate Gaurav for quickly preparing our new logo, Biofield Viewer 5 Live. Thank you, Gaurav, for that. And we'll start. So, of course, just to retune, this is what we measure. This is a side-on photograph of an electrographic process. Electrographic imaging is what we also call Kirlian photography. And I saw an image in a Thames and Hudson book of a Kirlian photograph of a hand taken in 1896, a good 50 years before the said Semyon Kirlian actually also repeated and captured this process, because it is a natural process. It's something that happens. Even Kirlian himself discovered it by accident when he observed this discharge when someone was perhaps too close to a high voltage machine. And so he was smart enough to realize there might be something interesting there, and recreated it. So clever him. But if you look at this image closely, you'll know that the light is, notice that the light is shining out of the grooves of our fingertip. So when we have our unique fingerprint, crikey, excuse my filthy hands, I live up in the mountains, they lug wood and stuff around. So that unique fingerprint is unique, perhaps for slightly different reasons than we understand, because what the biofield is the skeleton of the soul, in the same way the physical skeleton is the skeleton of the body. And so the symmetries and patterns that are being emanated speak to many lifetimes of stories. So, for example, when someone is reading somebody's palm or even someone's Kirlian image, they can tell you a lot about that person based on which grooves and which areas have either got increased flow or gaps. And it's interesting because you can see very clearly right at the end of this finger, there's two very bright sort of plasma emanations, and here there's gaps. this on a macro scale, when we look at the full biofield, obviously becomes perhaps areas of weakness and so forth. So it is important to keep our eye on the prize. And of course, this is just the fourth state of matter. You know, I never understood why biofield science became so taboo, because, you know, we just dropped it. We dropped the fourth state of matter in class. Maybe it's because water and, you know, plasma, we don't put it in our drinks. We didn't need it anymore, you know, like ice and tea, hot water. So I don't get it, but it is just simply the fourth state of matter that we're speaking to. And of course, we've entered a new era where technology can image these things, which is so important. And as I was saying to one of my students yesterday in a one-on-one training, we want to fill up any image with a third of the person. I haven't said that right. We want the image to be at least filled up by a third by the person. In other words, exactly like this. And like me now, you see, I'm filling up a third of the image. If I was way back here, it would be a waste of space. We don't need to see this out of field when we're making biofield assessments, because we're seeing where it emanates from when we zoom in nice and close, well lit. Now, I do like to point out very early on that the colors we see in a biofield image are not the priority for us. The priority is the symmetry. Okay, so in this case, we see a very symmetrical image, and this is because this isn't just a very well kept retiree. He's actually actively doing yoga and such like every day. So he's sort of high focused, maintaining himself. And we do like to see these golden green colors. These are two of our favorite colors. We like to see bright colors, not murky colors. I've never, ever been able to find a better expression than the angry pink that I speak of, because it kind of is onomatopoeic, or at least it means what it says. Fuchsia, but I like to say angry pink because it implies that the energy field that is that color. And when I say angry pink in this image, I'm talking about the color on the very top of this gentleman's head, and other areas, perhaps in his jaw. So in the jaw, what we're seeing here is not only the angry pink, but also the asymmetry. So I can be 100% sure that this fellow has a dental problem in that exact spot. And when I say 100% sure, we have our kind of list, don't we? We start with, is it a dental problem? Or it could be clenching. But normally, if it's clenching, we would see the pattern on both sides. And there's a completely different set of recommendations based on which of the two that is. And I'm only speaking by example here. I'm not choosing to go through this whole process. But just notice the clarity in the third eye, and yet the congestion over the nose. Notice the kind of shielding and pooling in the throat. So these are all very unique features of this individual, and some of them are attributes which speak to his optimizations, and some of them are areas which, when properly analyzed and encouraged to focus on, can also be optimized. So the weak link can be improved. Crikey, you're supposed to move when I press that button. Wow, this is a bit of a hectic one, but I did pull this off one of my old slideshows, and I think it is relevant because, you know, the computer screen is such a disappointment to dimensionality. You know, we have to wear special goggles if we want to pull 3D out on a screen. And this is one of the limitations of biofield imaging at the moment on a computer. And this is why I like to encourage people to use a projector, because when you project someone's biofield back onto them, you get more of the sense of this sort of dimensionality, the toroidal action. And I have to always honor the guys from ACMOS, super couple, who introduced me to the Lecker antennae. And this is pre-tuning forks, really. I would say the Lecker antenna is a better tool because you can calibrate it. You can use a scale to measure different frequencies. Tuning forks are a bit rudimentary. But the simple fact is that you can properly and fully calibrate and understand the pitch and yaw and the tipping, you know, of the biofield, because a healthy biofield spins absolutely on its axis, and someone whose health is compromised is a bit like the spinning top that starts slowing. Eventually, the analogy would be when the top stops, that's death. So is it possible by induction and resonates to encourage a top to get back to spinning on its axis? And that's what healing is the process where we induce through resonance, either through our hands or what other tools we have. And it's why, for example, you know, we're interested in high frequency sources. For example, buckwheat, you know, those little green shots you do. Well, you know, the frequency of buckwheat is so high, it gets your top spinning back on its axis. Same with oranges and fruit, fresh things. Other things can slow the core frequency down. And then what happens, obviously, is that top starts being affected. And so we really are always interested in what is the purest source of this plasma. And I don't think Adam and Eve got it wrong. You know, they realized that fruit and vibrant sources of light were the way to go. And, you know, the smart ones have been on that case ever since. So anyhow, even a couple of slides I borrowed, I think, no, I haven't shown these before, but just to give everyone who's perhaps not up to speed on biofield viewer imaging, the kind of technology that we're using. And as you can see, the camera here is $49. I don't think it's always this much. You always say $50. Sometimes there's a deal. But this Logitech camera we like because it attaches to a tripod. But as you can see from this other image, we actually recognize that the better quality the camera, the better quality the image. And that's all down to John Catchpole's software, which is of such high standard. And some of my students recently have been having a few issues with the images not being light enough. And so even though we're now talking about encouraging individuals to take images remotely, they still need to have the same kind of luministic discipline. Is that an expression? Now, this is a shot from our lab in Pune years ago. I mean, look, it's an old, what is that? It's a Video 8 camera or something, and an old 4-foot bulb. But it's speaking to what we need, which is a white wall, matte wall, not glossy. And obviously, if you don't have a white wall, then you can't hang up a sheet because all the ripples create shadow and actually confuse the process. So if you're going to use a sheet or anything like that, it needs to be pinned taut onto a frame or, you know, onto the skirting boards or whatever you're going to do. But a white background. And of course, we like full spectrum lighting. The most obvious full spectrum light that we know is the sun. And I am turned towards the sun at the moment because I'm pretty much looking out the window. And so if I turn sideways like this, if I had a white wall behind me, that would be fine. But let's face it, someone can hold up a piece of paper behind your head to get the white wall. There's an awesome amount of creativity that can go into the imaging process. And I encourage it, as long as there's no shadow and there's a background which doesn't draw the attention of our program away from what it needs to be looking at. That's why we have a white background. It's not just to create a standard. It's also because otherwise the program is going to go back in there and wonder what's going on in there. And that uses up a lot of the brain power. I mean, the computing power of your computer. So yes, the third rule, here it is again, the person fills up the image to a third. We have, as I mentioned earlier, practitioners all over the world. This is an image from one of our colleagues in Korea, funnily enough. Yes, I think that's Korean up there. And you can see that, in fact, what he was doing was testing several different cameras, several different angles, several different types of light. And he just worked out the optimum for biofield imaging. So if we can kind of duplicate this as best as possible, and of course this relates to pre-LED lighting. I've got a full spectrum light here. I think I bought it for $5 in a charity shop, but it's absolutely perfect for the job. I think they use it for seasonal adjusted syndrome. Just, you know, if you live up in Alaska and it's terribly dark for 6 months, you need a bit of sunlight. I think they make lights like this. I use it because my eyes are failing after 30 years on the computer, and I'm a numismatist, which means I collect coins, and I can't see them without my magnifying glass and a good light. But anyhow, I digress. So shadow, the artifact that we know as shadow, is the thing that we really need to convey to our subjects, wherever they are in the world. It needs to be avoided, because we just simply get compromised by it. And I don't know whether I'm going to get away with this, but I think after my slides, I'm going to show you a couple of things I made on my phone with the Biofield viewer, just as a bit of a warm up to specifically address this issue of shadow and what the compromise actually looks like when you're in Biofield viewer mode. So beware of shadow. Otherwise, you're just going to have to take the pictures again. That is as simple as that. So if you give someone the guidance, and this is specifically to remote imaging, but obviously it applies in your own facility as well. If you've got somebody there, then obviously, crikey, in the same way a passport fought. Good old spell check. I'll have to change that slide. That's brilliant. Passport shot. Okay, brilliant. What's going on? Okay, so nice images. Nice images are bright images with no shadow, and you can see, I mean, actually probably the guidance we give in clinic is relevant for the current age, when none of us have been able to get anywhere near a pair of scissors to get our hair cut or such like. But hang on, I digress. The reality is that the best look for a biofield image is, you know, your hair swept back off your forehead, so we don't have any shadow falling across the face. We can see everything, and therefore we can analyze it in the way that I alluded to earlier with this face reading 5,000-year history. Crikey. Few of our chums, there's me and John and quite a few other people along the way. I don't know where this slide came from, but anyhow, yeah, this is also very fascinating, and I think it really is set to inspire, because it gives an idea of the benefit of working with a projector. This is a $400 projector that I bought, and now you can see that the light in the projector is exactly bright enough to use as the light source, but also to show the image. So effectively, we're plugging the Biofield viewer into a projector, and instead of perhaps looking at it on the wall opposite, we're using the light of the projector to illuminate the subject almost exactly to the right degree. Not in this case, because you can see it's a little bit washed out. But if we go back sort of here, all the way through here, this is absolutely perfect, absolutely perfect. So just got to make sure you've got the projector the right distance away. And then we can effectively do a full body imaging. And that's, of course, our fabulous John Catchpole looking incredibly well. But yeah, I think this is amazing. I think it's a breakthrough. So encourage people to take a full set of images. And I think this is why it's fun to do perhaps with a couple or two people who live together and work with both of them, because then they can very easily just take a set of images of each other. Otherwise, of course, most of our phones have timers on, and we can use those selfie sticks or, you know, selfie graspers that go on a tripod, or, you know, balance the phone on a book at the right angle, whatever it takes. But the point is that don't tip the camera down to take images of the legs. The camera should go down, and ideally so should whatever the light source is. So a full body scan is quite a procedure, but we welcome it, because the more we see, the more accuracy we can give, the more confidence we have. But obviously, if we just have face, hands, feet shot, the biofield is, as I said many times, like a diamond, and we can read every facet. Okay, so I'm just going to carry on a little bit. Obviously, it's important that we don't just end up with an image, we actually end up with data. And we recommend ImageJ. And I don't know whether all of you have already downloaded that program or accessed it. It's free. It's called ImageJ. It's the program that most government health organizations around the world recommend for image processing. So even though we're doing this pioneering maverick technique, we still use the reliable recommended technique for analyzing our images, because we don't want to provide any mystery or any doubt about what we're doing. But fascinatingly, it means we can break an image down, we can quantify an image. And as you can see on the right, this point that I'm going to make is to inspire here. We end up with the wave shape of an individual's biofield in this composite. So if you have thousands of images, is it going to be possible that in the future we can, using our augmented intelligence, not our artificial intelligence, but our biofield programming power, to recognize patterns in this wave shape and speak to what each individually wave shape implies? So yes, I think it's really exciting that we've entered a new era of database analysis to support the practitioners and individuals who are going in for this kind of screening with, what do we call it, previous experience. And that obviously is wisdom. Okay, so in the same way now that the passport, dare I say, industry, the passport photograph industry has moved on from these booths where electricity and power and all kinds of different things have got to be available for you to take your very specific passport photos. I didn't notice that picture I lifted says out of order. How appropriate. Because as you well know, if you've recently taken a passport photo yourself, this is what happens now. You go onto the passport site and they have this high security image frame, which is really just a circle and some gray background, and you plop yourself in the right spot, make sure you've got all the right lighting and you've followed all the recommendations, which are actually very well and widely accessible online. So if you look up how to take a set of passport photos, you end up with these amazing series of images, which, you know, basically kind of train us in a very few pictures how to do it right, and how to take an image that won't be rejected. And they've got these little green ticks and crosses to be clear. And this is exactly the same as what we're doing with Biofield imaging. So we're asking no more of individuals than to take their own passport photographs. And this diagram in this slide is even more helpful in a way, because it's got distances and recommendations and so forth. And this is exactly what I encourage people who are working with Biofield Viewer to tell their clients: go and look at the passport photo advice. Once you've absorbed that, take a set of images. The only difference is the more of the physical body we see, the more we can interpret. So we encourage ladies to wear a white cotton sports bra, so the cotton doesn't interfere with the energy and we can see kind of through it. Obviously, we prefer to see directly onto the skin, but we obviously want people to feel comfortable taking these images, and then we can do a full interpretation. And to that point, when we actually develop the image, it actually ends up looking like this. So we don't really get to be concerned about your stretch marks or your puppy fat or whatever it is you're worried about. We don't see it. We're not worried about it. We're just really keen to help you identify the real issues and help you solve them. And this is a before and after pair of images. And I love showing these images because they speak 2,000 words. They say, look, take a Biofield image, go for healing, take another Biofield image and show yourself that it's worked, and then you can own it. That's really the key process here, is owning and claiming and owning the healing that we're choosing in the first place. Okay, well, that really is it. So let's do it. Let's take some images and process them. We still don't have the wonderful John here, who had very kindly offered to kind of do the sound and video engineering for me. But he's got some stuff to deal with today. So I'm just going to show you what I'm going to show you, and we'll see how we get on. But if someone is up for it, it could be Vera if she's up for it. It could be Nelly if she's up for it. If you are prepared to go and, oh, gosh, all this time, there's Mohammed. I didn't realize. And Sammy, oh dear.
He pumped in quite late, so don't worry.
Okay, well, I apologize to people who've been waiting in the waiting space. I do apologize. We were doing a slide screen share thing, and at that point I couldn't see you. So crikey, I really do apologize for that, Sammy and Mohammed and all the others who are there. But in the meantime, yeah, I'm just going to show you what I filmed earlier with my Biofield viewer, and I think it will help. First of all, yeah. I think I'm going to turn the video down. Okay, so this is what we're dealing with here, which is how not to take an image because it gets, with shadow, because it gets so corrupted by the time we're trying to look at it through the Biofield viewer. And this is just it's really the only problem we're going to have with biofield imaging remotely is shadows. It's really the only problem we're going to have. So I think it's important to get it right, and I think it's important to show exactly what I mean. Obviously, the key issue is the light sources in the room and with the people involved. So I'm just going to give you an example. I'd be very happy to process a biofield viewer image that was taken like that, because there's minimal shadow on my face and I'm actually just using the sunlight. Okay. But the moment that I turn with the window, obviously there's the window. If I turn sideways onto the window, then clearly we're at a loss with the shadow. So I really didn't want to make this as an actual video, because I think it's something so unique for each practitioner to guide their clients. Now, as you can see, I collect stitched art. I'm mad about it. Totally love that. Wool on canvas. But it doesn't take much to find your little background that you need. And again, we don't want to see anything here. That confuses the program, distracts it, and draws light away from the image. So all you've got to do is get in the spot that you've got. Of course, now I've created a bit of shadow with the back of the screen, but that's the best I can do. That'll do. You know, we're really not after something completely specific, because the biofield viewer is very generous, and as long as there's not an overwhelming light source, we will be all right. Now, I don't know, so Sammy, seeing as you're here, would it be all right if I pick up one of your images that you sent me a few days ago?
My images?
Yeah, I mean, can I get your handsome self up on the screen so that we can show how there's a different, you know, the difference between the image in the first place and what it looks like through the biofield viewer, and how we can therefore speak to this. But I just need your permission first, Sammy. Is that all right?
Okay.
Thank you. I'm gonna be gentle. Don't worry. But it's just you happen to be here, and I can ask your permission live, and it's as if I've just taken your picture, and as if we're now going through it. So I'm gonna shrink my slideshow. I'm going to go back on to okay. And we're going to just briefly talk about this picture, Sammy, and actually that any shortcomings. Crikey, what's that? Oh, there's a lot of people waiting. I do apologize. I'm going to share my screen again, and of course, what's the first thing we notice about this image? From my perspective, it's a wee bit too dark. And this is the crucial thing for everyone to understand, is that just bring the light closer. Get close for the image. You know, if you end up having to make your image of your whole body in thirds because your light isn't bright enough, that's fine, because the light is our friend and it illuminates all the shadowy areas and dark areas that otherwise we just sort of end up not being able to interpret. Of course, this is a wonderful image also, and I can interpret images that are outside of the range. But it is a little bit confusing for people when we're doing that, because their images just look quite dark. Certainly I can commend whatever activity we're seeing here in the third eye region and the symmetry in this biofield. But I'm always thinking, when I see an image like this, crikey, please take another one. I just want to speak to a brighter set of images, or a brighter image than this. So perhaps let's use this one, Sammy, as an opportunity to just brighten stuff up. The sun obviously is a great light source when people are doing stuff remotely, because they can just go outside and find a white wall and take a picture with their phone against the white wall using the sunlight. Or in an environment where we're more standardizing images, because we want to compare, say, someone today to in 6 weeks, 12 weeks, 18 weeks time, after this individual's followed our protocols or been in for a series of, you know, whatever it is, chiropractic sessions. Yeah, we just like to see it a bit brighter. And as I was showing in my slides, I'm not going to go back there, but I am going to go and get my actual main light for a second, because, you know, I don't know, but here it is. Excuse me, that's my pump. I don't know, but you know, if I have an opportunity to collaborate with any one of you people, including myself, as a family, remotely, you know, father, mother, a couple of kids, friends, neighbors, whatever, why not spend $50 on a light? I mean, a lot of families already have a semi-professional photographer on the team, as it were. And I mean, they're so affordable now. They really are. This one, as I mentioned, I don't know. I mean, I did buy it for $5 in a charity shop, so I'm a bit not up to speed on the actual cost of things like this. But you know, if I had signed up to this process, I would eventually encourage somebody to get something like this that they could use every month and take a set of images. I mean, they're saving that much money on fuel, not coming to my clinic, and parking. So certainly something to consider. But as I said, we haven't even talked about the other tricks that I recommend. And, you know, some people, you know, they've got old-fashioned lighting in their house, and the only kind of lamp thing they've got has got a lamp shade on it. Well, take it off. Take the lampshade off, use the bare bulb, line it up in a straight line with someone's nose on a 90-degree angle perpendicular to the wall, and take your picture. And we will be able to work with that with our Biofield viewer imaging. Sammy, thanks for being a good sport and letting me put your beauty, your Joseph's Technicolor Dreamcoat up on the screen. Just before I remove it, I just do want to let colleagues know that one of the key things in biofield imaging that you may not be aware of is the significance of the gradations between the two bands. Okay, so for example, with Sammy here, all these lines of color feed directly into each other. And there's no bleeding, there's no dissipation from one color into the other, there's no speckling. And it's this clarity of color and brightness of color and sharpness that bodes well, that indicates a good health. And when we see these colors merging into each other and dissipating and obviously being asymmetrical, this is a significant issue. So even though this image is a little dark, I'm not getting confused that there's something of concern here, because I've got these other backup things to remind me that what are the qualifying factors. I don't know whether any of you have seen Elia Kostova's video. where she takes a Biofield viewer 3D image and zooms in with accessible software. She has a channel on YouTube called Netropia, which is Neitropia. And she's actually got quite a lot of Biofield stuff there. She's a very pioneering doctor in Varna on the Bulgarian coastline. And the reason why I mentioned her, because I noticed this very interesting pattern as I had zoomed in on the side of Sami. And I think you would also be very surprised if you zoom in, because what we notice on the macro scale, pooling and such like, we also have a whole new world of information on this micro scale. And you notice this here looks like a kind of a zipper, zip, 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 zip. Here the colors are kind of dog tooth into each other. That is fascinating. And it's each of these patterns are actually quite unique, and they can speak to different issues. I also always like to mention my senior colleagues around the world, like Brian Daly, who's been working with Biofield technology since some of you were in diapers, and also Graham Wilkinson in New Zealand, because he it's just about experience and wisdom. You know, when you've been a practitioner for 30 years and you get something like Biofield Viewer, you instinctively know how to use it. And I was stunned when I went to New Zealand, and Champ told me that he was able to identify so many different things with our imaging technique based on the patterns and colors of certain areas. I shall invite him to give a lecture to you all in the future, Graham Wilkinson. And I'm going to give you an example. He said to me, here, look at this. And it was a pattern that he'd identified in a few images. And what it was basically a very red speckled area on the butt, basically. And in this particular case, I mean, I'm not saying that means that every time, but he had a number of cases in his presentation to me at the time. And he was saying that's Candida. And I'm like, wow, how can you tell that from our image? So I think it is really exciting that so many different professionals who are working with their individual experience are coming to our technology, our, you know, turning the lights on in the operating theater technology, and yet shedding light on what we're seeing. That is ironic and beautiful at the same time. So to look up Elia Kostova, I also point out that she's got some therapies that she's done live under the Biofield Viewer. That's very interesting. And how she also has shown the Biofield Viewer has a completely whole other application, which is processing other images. And especially people who are already in integrative healthcare might find this interesting, that you can import not just an image from a Zoom or someone's taking it remotely, but you can also import a PET scan or an MRI scan or a CT scan. And as you well know, if you have the system, you can run that video through the system. So for example, Elia shows in her Netropia how the PET scan on one side of the screen is improved exponentially by running the same image through the Biofield Viewer, because you don't just see the black and white tumors, you see the most malignant tumors. And when you're seeing a full color CT scan on one side, you don't just see the full color 3D scan, you see the malignancy within the tumor, because the 3D biofield highlights those super accentuations of gradations of light intensity. And it does it with any kind of image. So this is a new front and a new opportunity for integration. I hope it's well received. It's certainly delivered with good intent. Okay, well, Sammy sent his images, and now what I'm going to do is, yeah, well, I think probably, I don't know. I'm going to just check my emails because I did ask anyone to send some images before for me to process now live. And I'm just going to attend to one of those things. I also want to stop sharing my screen so we can all perhaps see each other a bit better. And yeah, I just have to. We did a very interesting experiment, John and I, with one of our invitees at this workshop. Her name is Natalie, and she is a healer from Scotland. And what she did was she initially sent us some pictures of her mother's hound, who she didn't tell us anything about it. Oh, why is that not showing up? There you are, John. Okay, so John very kindly developed all the images that she sent through to us. And they're really fascinating because in the first set, we were able to identify some fairly interesting facets. And I suppose we're now talking about biofield viewing animals at a distance. It's not actually what I meant to do. This is my little fake fur jerkin, but it is very interesting the effect fur has in our biofield image. And so we're actually, it really is where the 3D program within the biofield viewer comes into its own, because the 3D program is able to identify issues through the fur. Now, I do have a cat sleeping over there, so maybe I should go and grab some pictures and show you. But this is going to be a complete show. Hang on, that's switched off now. Oh, there we go. Okay. So it's a bit jimmery-jew, and of course, what I'm demonstrating here can all be done completely automatically, in fact. But let's see if I can get this worked out. At least take a picture of this said cat. Okay, cat. Why am I not seeing you? Okay, I do apologize for this, but this is science in action. Yeah, I can't do that, I'm afraid. He looks absolutely fabulous. And he would get a nice image, but I just can't see to take his picture and grab it all in the same time. So that's why I say that it is perhaps much better to have somebody with you. So Brian, can I take? Actually, you know what? I'm going to have a problem doing this because I thought John was going to be here and that he'd be able to take these actual pictures. And of course, nearly all of you have got biofield viewer systems, I think. Let me think, one, two, yeah. Certainly all of you have got access to the biofield viewer. So I might save my blushes and pull the ripcord here because we've had a good Barney for an hour, and I do want to keep these sessions to an hour so that we don't discourage you know, the viewership. So really, I just want to thank you all for coming. Anyone who sees this workshop, please send an image in the way that we've described. This is part 2 of our workshop on distance screening. I'm not embarrassed that I've not been fully able to pull up you know, actually do a live demo. But perhaps I should at least show the pictures of this fabulous dog before I go. because it's quite interesting. Certainly there was a marked improvement in the two images, which is fascinating. It really is. But also you can see here we are in 3D, what it is that we actually see. And it's interesting, these are the after images, and there's this particular hot spot here that John and I had noticed. Let me go all the way back to the first set of images. This is the beautiful thing about sort of having a little bit of time to get the images and then process them. I don't know why that, yeah, you see, I think these are the early ones. Now this dog has multiple issues, and I think a few malignant tumors. So it's not surprising we're seeing such dark patches on the body surface. But as I said, in these 2D images, it's quite easy to get distracted by the fur. But once we go into 3D, we really do get some insights. And it is just about getting the right angle. And that's why I encourage people to take lots of videos of animals, and just until we get the right angle. And this, for example, is the patch that I was concerned about. It shows up in quite a few areas of the images. Anyhow, about 5 or 10 healers got involved here, you see, where we're seeing these peaks within, coming specifically from an area. It's interesting, that area shows up in all of the images that we took in the first set. And, you know, I guess it relates to, I mean, I don't guess, it's the liver affected by the tumors. The liver energy that we can see, I should say. And now my screen has gone all blurred. But let's hope it comes back to me. Ah, there we go. Yes. So in the latter images, what John said, because to be honest, he very kindly did this process for me. He even noticed that in the actual videos, the dog was shaking much more in the first videos, and that in the second set, that shaking had sort of calmed down. And I just want to try and show you effectively what is a before and after. Wow, that's funny. That looked to me like a patch of where it's been shaved even. Well, doesn't that speak 1,000 words? But anyhow, just being able to reach into people's lives in this way. This is a grandmother up in Scotland somewhere with concerns about her hound. And here we all are, a network of scientists. Right, I am about to be cut off. This house is solar powered, and that noise means that we're about to lose power. So it seems quite timely that I've already said au revoir, and that I'm going to draw this to a close. God bless you. Literally all gone.